Hi there. Today's flow, we're going to work on opening our shoulders, our hips, and eventually building to dancer pose. So a couple of props might be helpful. I would grab maybe some blocks if you know you like that for lunges. I would definitely grab a blanket. It doesn't need to be a yoga blanket. Any sort of blanket will, or even a thick towel could work. And then I would also grab a strap or a scarf, something that you can use to wrap around the foot and just extend the arm a little for some of those poses. So gather your props and we'll meet here on the mat. We'll start our practice today in our comfortable seat. You're welcome to sit on a prop, maybe a blanket or a block, or you can just be grounded on your mat. That's what I've chosen to do today. And we'll start to find that tall spine, maybe noticing shoulders as they shift back over the hips. Finding that length and seeing if you can find a little ease in this upright position. I invite you to close the eyes if you haven't already, and we'll start to bring our awareness to our breath. Starting with that scan, just noticing the pace of your breath, whether it's quick or a little longer. Noticing if you feel that rise and fall more into the upper chest or the low belly. None of these things are right or wrong. We're just bringing that awareness to where we're starting our practice right now. And then on your next inhale, start to lengthen the breath. Stretch it out to a count of 4 or 5. And exhale, that same count of breath. Take up all that space. Inhale, fill up. Little longer, that count of 4 or 5. Exhale, release. Empty out. One more, maybe this is your deepest inhale yet. Exhale, release. Noticing your sit bones are grounded a little further into whatever you're sitting on. We'll start to shift into our box breath. And if that's not something you're familiar with, that's okay. I'll guide you through it. We'll all get there together. So everyone take an exhale, just reuniting our breath. And then inhale for a count of 4 or 5. And then hold that breath at the top. Just hold it. We're still in that count of 4. Exhale for 4. Nice and long. And then hold the breath at the bottom for 4. So how does this make a box? On our next inhale, we're drawing up the side of our box, that count of 4. And then hold the breath at the top. We're drawing that top of our box. Exhale, we're drawing down the other side of our box. And then hold at the bottom, closing off that final side of our box. Inhale, we fill up. And then hold at the top. Exhale down. And hold at the bottom. Continue that breath pattern, and you have permission to lengthen or shorten each part of that breath. Just keep them all the same. So each part of that box might be a count of 3 or of 5, or you can stick with that 4. Every day is a little different. Again, none of these are better or worse. We're just bringing balance, bringing a little bit of that centering back into the body just by using our breath. Stick with that box breath. Well, if this gives you any feelings of anxiousness, just release it and go back to those even breaths. But if that doesn't a problem for you, just staying with this box breath, really helping to bring yourself back to center. We're getting really present on our mat. Wherever you are, one more full round of breath, resisting any urge to rush. Your timing is perfect. After that last hold at the bottom, you can start to shift back into those even breaths, or maybe ujjayi breath if that feels interesting today. Inhales and exhales through the nose with that little constriction at the back of the throat. If somebody held that pane of glass in front of your face, if you were to fog that glass, a little easier sometimes to practice with the mouth open. And then once you have that feeling, close the mouth and see if you can imitate that same little constriction at the back of the throat with the mouth closed. Often called ocean breath, oceanic waves. You'll hear those audible inhales and exhales. If you're practicing alone today, nobody might hear you, but we still want to hear, you want to hear your breath as we use this through practice. And again, if it doesn't feel inviting to keep this breath, you can always release it and then just ignore any breath cues that I say. But if it's helpful, then stick with it, and I'll try to cue that breath throughout our class today. I'll start to blink the eyes open and get ready for some movement. We'll start with some seated twists here. So we'll just start to shift over towards the right. The left hand goes to the right knee. Let that right hand go behind you and start to twist leading with your shoulder. No need to crank that neck around. It doesn't even need to go as far as the shoulder. And if you're using the breath, think about your inhales allowing you to grow a little taller. And exhales, you can sink a little deeper into the twist. Might be a subtle shift. One more inhale. And exhale, come back through center. Over to the left, right hand on the outside of that left thigh. Again, just leading with the left shoulder this time. And maybe with your inhales, you grow a little taller. Exhale, sink a little deeper. Really early in practice, no reason to force. Just starting to warm up. On your next exhale, come back through center. Let's rise the arms overhead. And then find that cactus shape. So elbow tips are pointing towards the sides of the room, and then see if you can pull those back slightly. And maybe you start to feel the shoulder blades coming together like they could kiss on your back body. Inhale, let's just straighten the arms and then start some little arm circles here. So I'm taking the arm circles kind of moving towards the front. It doesn't matter which direction you chose. We're going to do a little bit of both. Maybe you'll start to feel a little bit of warmness in the shoulders and the arms as we do these movements. And let's reverse, going towards the back. Excellent job. Maybe these circles get a little bigger. Let's try those big circles in the other direction. Just switch here. Really nice. And then come back to your cactus arms. Find whatever makes sense here. Woo! We'll find that cactus. Squeeze together. And then one big circle. Cactus the arms. Squeeze together. Circle in that opposite direction. Are your shoulders feeling warm? One more. Cactus. Wow, mine are. And release. Let's take the hands behind us and find a bind. So this might be a simple opposite elbow to opposite, or opposite hand to opposite elbow. Can look like this. Or you can interlace your hands, keeping the thumbs just resting on your sacrum. If that is all feeling good, maybe you start to straighten the arms, bringing your fist, that interlaced hand, down towards the floor. In any of these cases, can you think about squeezing the shoulder blades even further together? And if your arms are straight, start to punch that hand down towards the floor. Maybe you feel the floor with the tops of your fingers, maybe not. And gaze can start to shift up, but no need to drop the neck back. One more breath. Exhale, release. And we'll start to roll onto the back. I'm just going to turn onto my mat. Just roll yourself down. Really nice job. Maybe squeeze the knees into the chest, that little shift from side to side. This feels really nice, a little massage on your low back, on your sacrum. And then release the knees, let the feet come back towards the mat and set them up about hip width wide. We're kind of setting up for our bridge pose here. So hands will be on the mat next to you. Their hands are facing down into the mat. And then on your next exhale, start to press the hips up, coming into our bridge pose. And here's another opportunity for that bind. So you could still take opposite hands to opposite elbows, or that interlacing of the hands. Maybe you start to stretch the arms long and squiggle yourself up onto your shoulders a bit more. Imagine there are some magnets on the inside of your knees, and they're trying to pull the knees together, but you're trying to keep them nice and straight. We're really just activating the legs with that. It's just kind of a nice visualization that might help. One more inhale. Exhale, release any binds. Start to lower yourself all the way back down to flat. Slide the feet mat width wide, and then start to shift the knees from side to side. You might hear this as windshield wipering out. Releasing the low back, releasing any tension. And then as you're ready, slide those feet back to that hip width wide. Maybe you can reach down, feel the heels with your fingers, just about getting close to the glutes. And then on your exhale, press through the feet, rising up again. See if you can really press up to the fullest extent here. And let me pressing through your toes. See if you can find more space. And then it might be nice to keep the hands down because we're about to move the legs. So shift the weight a little more towards the left so you can bring the right knee into your chest. You can even move that left foot in a little bit if that gives you more stability. We're still rising the hips. Maybe you point the toes. And on your next exhale, option to start to straighten the leg up towards the sky. Inhale, fold that back down, knee into chest. Really press through the left leg. Extend it out, press towards the sky. Bend the knee into chest. Last time, I know this is a lot, press the leg up. You got this. And then settle that right foot back onto the mat. Press all the way up. We're staying up, but if you need a rest, you can always lower back down and then just come back into it when you're ready. Shift the weight to the right. Again, you have that option. Move the foot if that gives you more stability, and then left knee into your chest. All right, point the left toes, press through the right foot, and on your next exhale, point the toe up towards the ceiling. Really great. Inhale, bend that knee in, yeah. Exhale, straighten. Whoo, push through the right foot, bend the left knee. Last time, you're almost there. Press it up, and then you can lower that left foot down, nice and slow, don't rush. One more push, rise the hips up as high as you can. Maybe you even find a bit more space, and then lower all the way onto the back. Oh, wow, that was a lot. Option to go back to those windshield wipers, or maybe you squeeze the knees into the chest, whichever feels a little better in your body. You can find movement, stillness. Lots of options for you, depending with how you're feeling right now. Awesome. Let's bring both feet up towards the sky. Hands will be right next to you. Use the palms into the mat for a little resistance. And let's lower the right leg all the way down to the mat. You can always bend your leg here if this feels like too much. And then use your exhale to pull this back up. Let's start with that inhale, and the left foot goes down. Exhale to pull it back up. Let's try the other direction. So now as we lower the right leg, exhale. Inhale, pull back up. Exhale, left leg down. Inhale, up. Which did you like better? Do that. Both are great. One more of these single leg lowers. Again, the legs can be bent if that's working a little bit better for you today. Left leg is lowering. Rise back up. You can keep with the single, or maybe this time we lower both legs at the same time. Only lower enough that you can still feel your lower back glued to the floor. And then rise back up. Let's do two more. That might be your single leg, or maybe you're using the double leg. One more. Keep that low back glued to your mat. Rise up. Squeeze the knees into your chest, really nice. Let's take the hands to the back of the hamstrings, rock and roll a few times. Enjoy this little massage. You just did a ton of work. Really nice. And eventually, we're gonna meet in an Uttanasana. So use that momentum. Look, I used my hand, that's okay. Eventually, we're in that forward fold at the front of your mat. I'm gonna grab my notes here. Awesome. Uttanasana, release the head, release all the weight. The more you bend your knees here, the more this is going to release your back. If you feel like you could use a little more stretch into the hamstrings, taking the legs towards straight will help you to find that stretch. On your next inhale, let's sweep the arms out wide, come to stand up tall. Palms will touch overhead. Exhale, cactus those arms. Squeeze the lower belly in, so we're keeping the stretch in the upper back. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, cactus. Squeeze the back body. One more time. Inhale, up. Exhale, cactus. Those elbows are coming to the back of your mat. Nice. Inhale, up. And then bow forward, coming back into our Uttanasana, or forward fold. Step back with the right foot, coming right into a low lunge. Lower the right knee onto the mat. And then use your inhale to rise. Exhale to sink. Always the option to move the feet around, make this comfy. I slid my foot a little bit forward just to help me feel a little bit more of a stretch into my right hip flexor, a little into the psoas here. Awesome. From here, we're going to come into a quad stretch. So if you know you'd like to use your strap, we'll grab this strap, make a nice big loop, and then come back a little to make this easier, just to lift your foot and kind of put it inside the strap. We want to make this stretch into the quads, but also opening the shoulders. So we'll start to bend this back knee and actually take both hands back. So the elbows are up by our ears, and we'll pull on the strap to bring that a little bit more open and allow your shoulders to open. So you should feel this in the front of our shoulders, maybe into the pecs, as well as into that right quad. If you'd like to not use the strap on this side, your other option will be to reach back with the right hand, arm will be back, and then see if you can reach back with the left and also grab that foot. This will still allow you to get into the front of the shoulders, the pecs, and the quads. Both of those options are great, and we've probably been here longer than you think. You're doing really great. On your next exhale, slowly release the foot. Woo, a little slower than I just did. Okay, bring those hands down to the mat and step yourself back into plank. Every time you're in plank, you can always lower the knees. And on your exhale, let's lower all the way down to the belly. Untuck the toes. Inhale, squeeze the elbows into the body, finding our cobra. Exhale, release. Press yourself back. Downward facing dog. Excellent job. First time we're in our down dog, so take some time here. Pedal out the feet, hips from side to side, any of those little movements that make this shape feel really nice. Remembering it's really more about the upper body. So think about a nice bend in the knees so you can rise the hips a little higher and take your chest back towards the thighs. We really want to find length in the spine as our priority. And maybe your legs start to straighten, but maybe they stay really bent. That's amazing. On your next inhale, right foot steps up to the right thumb, lowering the left knee. We're on the other side. So your choice. You want to grab that strap. You'll start to bring that up. Let's find, we almost forgot our nice bend into the lunge. Arms rise, find that nice stretch first, wiggling the feet any way that would make this more comfortable for you. Then we'll add that quad stretch. All right, so that option to reach for the strap, and then you'll bring your arms up overhead like we did on the other side, or just reach back with the left hand first, grab the foot, and see if the right hand can grab too. You might notice, look, I come out of the lunge a little to find this connection, hands to foot, and then I sink forward. We're really looking to bring more of the weight onto the front or the bottom of your thigh, not so much on the knee. But remember, you've got that blanket. So if adding a blanket under this back knee would be comfortable, please do that. Really helpful. Let's take 2 more breaths. Whatever version of this stretch you're in, think about rolling the shoulders back, really opening up. Maybe the gaze moves up the wall or whatever's in front of you a bit more. Super slow lower. Let's see if I can do better this time. There we go. Lower that back leg. Step back, find your plank. That same vinyasa to cobra if you'd like, or maybe this time you just bend the elbows, untuck the toes, press up, upward facing dog. Hips to the sky, downward facing dog. Excellent job. All right, let's start our flow. From our down dog, inhale, raise the right leg high, but keep the hips square so the heel is towards the ceiling. And then bend the knee, step between the hands, crescent lunge. Rise all the way up. Sink down, find that space. Really nice. From here, with control, slowly lower that back knee. We're coming into a low lunge, Anjaneyasana. You can keep the back toes tucked or not, doesn't matter. And then hands will come down to frame that front foot. We're going to heel toe the foot to the outside of the mat, lizard pose. Now I'm going to slide my back knee back. Your choice, find space. This should feel really lovely. Our stretch is probably down the left leg, that hip flexor. And you can stay right here, or if you've got blocks, you can lower down on elbows on the blocks. We'll be here for a few breaths. You can also take those elbows all the way down to the mat. If you're feeling nice and open, really do think about squeezing the right knee into the shoulder though. So instead of opening out, which is a different variation, today we're keeping that foot flat, squeezing the elbow towards the shoulder. Depending on your body, this might be harder. It's harder variation for me. It's way easier to find that external rotation and really open into the hip with my knee out. Keeping it really square, it's a little bit more challenging in my body. One more inhale. One more exhale. And then coming up to your hands if you were on a block. We're going to move into a half split, so it might be helpful to grab both of those blocks. And we'll start to shift the hips back, finding a wide-legged variation of our Ardha Hanumanasana or half split. So my leg is still more towards the outside of the mat. That's totally fine. So we're giving a little bit more space, a little different stretch. And then check in with your hips. Are they square? You might find they actually find that square a little bit easier in this outside variation than when our leg is straight in front of us. And then check in with your back. Are you rounding in the back in order to find this fold? If so, rise up a little more onto our blocks. We want to find that flat back, easy for me to say, as the priority before we start to fold, and then keep that length as you lower down. One more breath here, really, really nice. And then shift the weight forward. We're coming to plank, so those blocks off to the side. Plant the hands, right foot steps back. We're in our plank pose, stay with me. And then on your exhale, lower all the way down to the belly. Slide the hands up, we're finding Sphinx. So elbows come about below the shoulders. We're in that Sphinx pose. Think about activating or pulling in that low belly. It will help you find some length in this pose. And then maybe you find that little isometric pull. So without real movement here, think about from the fingertips back to the elbows, could you pull that back? Maybe your chest comes a tiny bit forward. Little bit of space. Awesome. All right, we're going to come into a half frog. It is way more comfortable for me to use a blanket in our half frog. So I'm going to take this blanket out to the right side where my knee will land. And then from this Sphinx, I'm going to take my right knee out. My left leg stays long. Knee should be about in line with the hip. Maybe you flex the foot and you want your heel to be in line with the knee. You can stay up in this Sphinx pose, or you can start to lower down. Notice what feels better. Thinking about squaring the hips as much as you can. This does not need to be perfect. Might feel nice to stack one hand on top of the other. Use that as a little pillow, and you can rest your forehead right down on top of those hands. I'm just keeping my head up so you can hear me through the mic. Really nice. One more full round of breath. Exhale, release. Start to walk that foot back. Take the arms behind you. We'll come into a locust pose. Option to take the bind where you interlace the hands behind you, or you can keep your hands right down. I'll do this variation this time. You get to choose. Start by rising the upper body. Keep that gaze down so our neck is nice and long. And then zip up those legs. They're coming together to squeeze towards the midline and then rise up. And then maybe the backs of the hands float off as well. Think about squeezing the shoulder blades together. And so maybe you find a bit more height. Keep that gaze down in front of the mat. One more inhale. Can you rise a little higher? Exhale, release. Really nice. Hands come underneath the shoulders. Press up, find your way into downward facing dog, your pathway. Excellent job. While we're here, it might be easy just to slide this blanket through, adjust a little in your down dog, so that your blanket's waiting now on the left side of the mat for your half frog. Excellent. Let's do that all on the other side. Inhale, left leg rises. Exhale, crescent lunge. Step between your hands. And then rise all the way up. Exhale, sink. Just finding that strong crescent to start. Then we'll slowly lower that back knee. Low lunge. Excellent job. Hands will come down, frame that front foot, and then start to slide the toes over to the left side. Lizard lunge, both hands are inside. Maybe you slide that back knee back just a little bit more. And then you have choices. You can stay right here. We're looking for that stretch into the left hip, into the right hip as well. And then maybe this block, you can start to lower onto your elbows, or you could take it all the way down until your elbows are on the mat. And then remember, we're finding that neutral activation. So the left knee should be squeezing in towards your left shoulder, not opening up this time. Any little movements here. Encourage you to find some really deep breaths. Maybe sending your exhales to any little sticky parts. That cue to your brain that it is safe and it's okay to relax. Let's take 2 more full breaths here. And start to come back up to your hands. Reaching for those blocks if you'd like that for your half split. And we'll start to shift back. Keeping our legs nice and wide. I'm going to try having both blocks inside the leg this time. So both variations are totally fine. You can have one block on either side of the leg, or in this lizard, it might feel nice to have them on the inside. Maybe test it out, see what feels better for you, and then check in again. Is your back nice and long? Removing any arch is kind of our goal here, any rounding. Always the option to rise up a little higher on the blocks to make that feel a little bit more accessible. Let's take 2 more rounds of breath here. And as you finish that second exhale, we'll start to shift forward. We're coming towards our plank pose. You can move those blocks to the side. Find your way to plank. And then exhale, lower all the way down to the belly, finding that sphinx. Slide the hands forward, elbows under the shoulders. Engage the low belly. Find that little isometric pull with the forearms. The heart comes through towards the front of your mat. All right, half frog, other side. So let's take that left knee out this time. Maybe your blanket was already set up as we did during our down dog. Make this super comfy. Maybe flex the left foot. And then allow yourself to sink back down, starting to lower that left hip down towards the mat to feel this nice stretch. Find your breath. Let's take 2 more full long ones here. And after that second exhale, we'll start to bring the left foot back next to the right, coming into that locust pose. Hands slide back. And remember, you have options. Hands can stay with the backs of the palms on the mat, or you can take a bind. I'll do that variation this time. Again, you always have that choice. Thumbs can stay resting on the sacrum, or you can start to stretch them long. We'll rise the upper body first. Squeeze the shoulder blades together, and then zip up those legs. Start to rise the legs. Then if you had those hands on the mat, see if you can float those as well. Inhale, see if you can rise even more. Pull the shoulders back. Keep the neck long, gazes down. One more inhale. Can you find more space? Exhale, release. Excellent job. Hands underneath the shoulders. Find your way back. Downward facing dog. Really, really nice. All right. We'll do all of that again. Take out any little repeats. Speed it up a bit more with our breath, and then we'll add on our final piece. Inhale, right leg rises. Exhale, crescent lunge. Use your inhale to rise and your exhale to sink. Next, exhale, lower down. Find that low lunge. And then lizard, start to slide your foot to the outside of the mat. We'll take 2 rounds of breath here wherever you'd like to lower to. Or you can stay on your hands. See if you can squeeze that right knee into the shoulder. Coming back up to your hands if you had lowered down. You grab those blocks if it's helpful. We'll shift back. That wide variation of half split. Finding that long spine as you stretch into the right hamstring. On your inhale, we'll slide forward, low lunge, plant the hands, step back, find plank. Exhale, lower down, Sphinx pose. Awesome. Take a very short frog. I'm not even gonna bother grabbing my blanket for this side, just taking the right knee out. One more breath, really nice. Exhale, slide it back. We'll take our locust pose. Lots of variation options. Zip up the legs. Let's see if we can rise everything together this time. Inhale, rise. Squeeze towards the midline. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Exhale, release. Press back into your down dog. And we'll add on. Inhale, right leg rises. Step back to your crescent and rise the arms. From here, we're coming to a warrior 3. So maybe we'll take some airplane arms, slide the arms back towards your hips. Weight shifts into this front leg, the right leg, as you float the left leg up. Flex that back foot like you're stepping on a wall behind you, and think about dialing the pinky down towards the mat. Just helps to square the hips. Awesome. You can also use these blocks for a little support if you're feeling a little unstable today. Both are amazing options. Coming into half mountain, so we'll come to stand up straight. Left knee comes to the front. Half mountain pose. All right. I encourage you to grab your strap for this one, so you can lower the leg for a moment. Our left knee is in front of us, and we've got our strap, and we're coming into dancer. Okay, I'm gonna face the camera first, but you stay where you are. We got our left knee up. Let's loop this strap under the bottom of our left foot. And then I like to take both sides of the strap to the outside of my knee for dancer. Awesome. Check back in. If you're feeling a little wiggly and wobbly, staying right here is perfectly fine. If you'd like to go a little further, we'll start to bring the knees together and pause again. So our foot is towards the back. Switch back this way. We're still holding the strap. Check in. If you want to go a little further, now we'll start to take the arm out to the side, sliding our elbow around until it's up by our ear. Let me do that this way. So, foot still here. Our hand was down. Start to bend the elbow as you take the arm out to the side until eventually you can bring your elbow up by your left ear. Perfect. Okay. From there, again, check in. If you're ready for a little bit more, right arm reaches back, reaching for that same strap. This should look a little familiar to one of our options as we did that quad stretch. I like to really floint the toes here, so I like extra little flex on the toes just to find a little extra grip. Great place to stay. Squeeze the elbows towards the ears. If you're still feeling good, start to kick the foot into the strap. As it starts to come up, the upper body goes forward to compensate, little counterbalance. And then you can always start to walk your hands down the strap. Just keep those elbows squeezing into the ear. Kick the foot into the strap. That is going to help you find a deeper back bend. And then you can always walk the hands down even more. This is good for me. If you fall out, come back to any of those little steps. Take one more full breath. Woo, this is a lot. You're great. How slowly can you come back out the way you came in? I just let the strap slide out through my hands. And the foot comes back down. Awesome job. How you feeling? You did really, really good. Always remember, whenever we take these more challenging poses, everyone's different. Wherever you just were was perfect. Remember, our actual point of yoga is to quiet the mind. This is kind of the fun stuff we do along the way. And if it's interesting, great. You can keep working on it. If it's not interesting, let it go. It doesn't matter. All right, let's sweep those arms out to the side. Bow forward. Plant the hands. You can step, hop, or float. Make your way to a down dog. If you haven't tried that float yet, plant those hands. Shift your weight into the hands and let those fingertips act as brakes. You'll start to feel your heels rise as the weight shifts. And then add a little bounce in the knees. We want to land in a bent arm push-up. So just pop the legs back, bend the arms. Perfect. Didn't need to look super pretty. Any version of vinyasa. We're meeting in that down dog. All right, same thing other side. Inhale, left leg rises. Exhale, step between the hands. Inhale to rise. Exhale, sink. Wait for your next exhale. And then lower the back knee, low lunge. Lizard pose, hands come down, heel toe the foot. 2 rounds of breath. Adjust any way you'd like. Maybe lowering down to the block or the mat. Really just one more breath. And then come back up. Grab those blocks if they're helpful. Shifting back with that flat back in our wide version of half split. Really nice. Next inhale, shift back forward, plant the hands. We're going towards plank. And then exhale, lower to the belly. Sphinx pose, slide the hands up. Elbows underneath. Activate the low belly. Half frog, that left knee slides out for 2 breaths. Use this time to reset. And then left leg slides back, coming into our locust. All of those options, bind or no bind. We'll see if we can rise everything together. So choose your hands, and then on your inhale, rise. Squeeze everything, zip up. Really imagine that everything's coming towards your midline. One more inhale, can you go a little higher? Exhale, release. Make your way to down dog. Our last little new part. Inhale, left leg rises. Exhale, crescent. Rise all the way up. Exhale, sink. Excellent job. From here, our warrior 3 with airplane arms. So slide yourself forward, shifting the weight onto the left leg. You can always use those blocks for a little extra stability. Hips are nice and square. And then maybe grabbing your strap before we come up this time. Half mountain pose. Right knee is in front of us. Excellent. All right. So the strap goes underneath the right foot. I like to bring both sides to the outside of my leg, and then I'll hold the strap in my right hand. Just move those pieces off to the side. Again, this is a perfect place to stay. So if you're feeling too wiggly, stay here. Really work on making this solid. Or Bring the knees together. Movement always adds a challenge. Wiggles and wobbles, really great. You can stay here, or can we bring this right elbow up by the ear? We'll spin the arm out, and then keep bringing the hand towards the back until your shoulder or your elbow is up by that right ear. Check in. Activate the low belly so we're not just sinking in, we're finding this with strength. Awesome place to stay. Or the left hand reaches back, also grabs the strap. And we squeeze both elbows into the ear. Okay, if you want to go a little further, start to kick the foot into the strap. You should feel that tensioning happening. And as the knee starts to go back, counterbalance with the upper body. Maybe you walk your hands down the strap just a bit. Keep those elbows in. Foot into the strap. You'll find even more space. Wherever you are is amazing. I am shaking, so if you are, it's totally okay. Let's see if we can take one more full round of breath. All right, slow and steady exit as softly as we came in or fall out. See if you can make your way back down. Really awesome job. All right, inhale, arms sweep out high. Exhale, bow forward. Whew, really, really nice job. Again, that option to step, hop, or float. Make your way through one final vinyasa, and we will meet in a downward facing dog. On your next exhale, slowly lower the knees down towards the mat. We're coming into a child's pose. That is where we'll end for today. See if you can slow the breath a little bit more. Aiming for that count of 4 or 5. If your forehead is not grounded on the mat and it would be more comfortable, maybe try to add a block underneath your forehead just to find that grounding. And we'll come into a belly down Shavasana, just sliding these blocks off to the side. Crawl yourself forward until you're on your belly. Make that little pillow again. So one hand stacks on top of another. And rest your forehead on top. Invitation to close the eyes. Relaxing here. Taking one more inhale through the nose. Sigh out through the mouth. Allow yourself to really sink into the mat. Noticing everything that is touching your mat and then just allowing it to relax a little more. Maybe you can release your toes. Maybe any tension in the back of your neck. Just soften. As always, if you have time, I encourage you to stay in the Shavasana for 5 minutes or even more. But if it's time for you to get on with your day, start to maybe rock the feet from side to side. And maybe start to shift the hips with them. Keeping those eyes closed and moving really lazily. You can shift the hands back towards your shoulders and shift back into a child's pose one last time. Allowing the belly to soften between the legs as you get there, really sinking in. And then so slowly walking the hands back towards your knees, coming to sit either on your heels, if that is comfortable in that hero's pose, Virasana. Or you can always come into an easy seat if that feels better for you. We'll close with our 2 rounds of breath together, starting with an exhale, emptying out. Inhale through the nose, sigh it out through the mouth. One more. Inhale, sigh it out. And bring the palms of the hands together to touch at heart center. We'll bow forward, sealing our practice together. Thank you for practicing with me today, and I'll see you next time here on your mat.